Ooh, excuse me. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another edition of the Brothers of Legacy. I am your host with the most, A.D. Walker. I appreciate you guys rocking and hanging. Spliggly splow, spliggly splow. All right, let's do this. Thank you, Lisa. Good morning. Thank you for sharing. Good morning, Keita. And good morning, Deborah. Bless you guys for being here. Make sure you share. Sharing is caring. Sharing is caring. And you're tagging someone to be a part of this conversation. I struggle with the topic today. So if you see one topic, I've changed it. That's why my text was kind of vague. Just come hang out with us. So today we're talking about breaking generational habits. Don't believe in curses or cusses. That's how you look at it. Generational curses. But I do believe in breaking generational habits. So we're going to dig into that. Hopefully my brother from another mother, pastor, will be in the building. Forgive me. So that's what we're talking about today, breaking generational habits. And it's kind of going in line, of course, what we've been talking about all week, toxic masculinity, and some of the things that have empowered toxic masculinity in our households, in our villages, and we're going to really dig into it because this is some of the origins of, a lot of toxic masculinity. We talk about how we teach our children, what we raise them, how the environments we raise them around. Earlier in the week, I had my man Kaneem on, and he spoke about, his examples of how to approach a woman who were from some of his uncles and cousins who were really kind of aggressive when it came to approaching women. So we're going to dig into that and what that all means. So it's all coming down to breaking generational habits. And we're going to talk about some of the ideas we pass down, some of what happens in this house, stays in this house mentalities that have been hurtful to a generation. Let's go. Good morning, Cheryl. Good morning. Thank you for rocking with us. And like I said, again, make sure you share. Sharing is caring. First time here, make sure you say what up. Tell me your name, where you're from. And if you're watching this on replay, do so. Tell me your name, where you're from, and make sure you share and tag somebody, as well as make sure you join our community. Text LWN to 84576. Text LWN to 84576. I really want you guys to join the text community, be a part of all that we're doing, and make sure you stay connected, and stay connected to all that Brothers of Legacy are branching out to do. So without further ado, we're going to get into this, breaking generational habits. As always, let me drop this intro and we'll be back right after this. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. And welcome to another edition of the Brothers of Legacy. Boom. All right, so make sure you are purchasing some BOL wear apparel. Make sure you go to www.brothersoflegacy.com, www.brothersoflegacy.com, brothersoflegacy.com. Even if you just go to be nosy and check out what's happening on brothersoflegacy.com. That's cool as well. Sensational. All right. So like I said, today we're talking about breaking generational habits, kind of changing what is what is happening in our families. Greetings, late Mama McCory. So today we are digging into that, which is kind of culmination of the toxic masculinity mentality or happenings in our villages. Oh, I didn't realize. Let me see something real quick, guys. Just hold on 1 second. What's happening in our communities and how what's happening in our communities and how what we do, are playing a large part, and how we respond plays a large part into how our children, what our children become, what our young men are learning, and things of that nature. And some of the things that we don't discuss, because some things are a reaction to hurt, a reaction to pain, and it's not put out there nor discussed. All right, let's do this. Split me spout. All right. Pastor in the building. Great morning to you.
Morning.
Morning. So I don't know what I think I put something of some other nature in the in our inbox. But today I kind of want to talk about breaking generational habits as far as, dealing, of course, with toxic masculinity, but also the things that we don't discuss, some of the old habits that we've grown up in, that some of us, because I know your household was a little more vocal when it came to feelings and things of that nature, things that happen. But a lot of us learning what happens in this house stays in this house, not discussing hurts and pains, and even some levels of abuse that happen that we keep quiet for whatever reason, either because of shame, because of something an adult may tell us, like don't tell anybody, and how some of these hurts and pains have culminated into toxic masculinity because, a boy that's hurt, spends his life trying to prove that he's a man, or, he's tough, or things of that nature. And so I kind of want to talk about that today, culminating to a lot of the conversation we had during the beginning of the week, and kind of focusing on what we can do in our villages to change some habits, because like I've always said, and people have said, your parents did what they thought they knew was best. Like, this is the best way to handle it. Talking about it is not the way to go. Going to a therapist, that's for crazy people. All you need is Jesus, and that's it. Little prayer, little oil will wash it away. Let the blood wash over you. But there's still scars as we try to move forward from it. There's still things that are hindering us mentally as we just try to brush it under the rug. That honestly, tears need to fall, things need to be discussed, and just set in the open for really set free to confess that thing. And because we fool our minds and trick ourselves into, yeah, I'm over it, but yet you carrying the baggage, but you're not. It's like I'm gonna ignore it, but it's still there.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, we kind of go through those generational habits until we, find yourself on the therapist's couch, and you're like, man, you start kind of just throwing it all out. I never realized how much how much was holding me back until I really began to talk about it. So today, I just want to talk about some of the things we can do, and you can mention any generational habits that we've had. And like I started off saying, we're not under a curse. These are just bad habits that we passed from generation to generation, and that we've carried, and I won't say all is bad that we got from the past, because some are great, but some of the stuff that need modifying. You know, as you know, when they say what happens in the house stays in the house, meaning, you know, you have to tell all the business that's happening in here. Like we're trying to figure things out, but when it comes to abuse and hurt, some things need to get out the house. Some things need to be discussed, and not feel isolated. So all right, so how I want to start the conversation by saying, what are some of the things that you feel or you've seen that may be contributing to either toxic masculinity or how we are dealing in relationships that you've seen in the past, like that you feel like some may be mimicking or are affected by? You know, like I know some people have mimicked physical abuse because they've seen it their whole lives, which is crazy because they've known it was bad, but I guess they feel like this is the only way I can get my woman in line. You know, like this is what I see. I see my daddy smack my mama. I see my uncle smack my aunt. You know, like, and they never left. So as hurtful as it seemed, this must be effective. You know, so what would you say is some of the things that you might have encountered, or some of the generational habits that you might have encountered that have been affected you or other people that you've seen? Thank you, Kenny. Appreciate it.
I mean, there's a lot of them, but I think
Yeah.
you highlighted a lot of the drivers
Okay.
behind these bad habits, or these, I'll say unhealthy habits.
Unhealthy. Right.
You know, I don't believe that we're under a curse,
Right.
according to what the scripture says. You know, the scripture is very specific about what you can curse yourself by denying God what's due him.
Right.
But I believe that you can curse yourself in other ways, right? There's no God delivered curse on you,
Right.
but you can curse yourself. You can curse your family. You can curse your generation. You do have the ability to do that by your behavior. And I think that's what, you know, I think that's how we interpret, you know, the practice of iniquity being passed from generation to generation. That's that familiar spirit.
Right.
Misery loves company.
Right.
You know, we grow accustomed to it. You know, what makes a person be physical? Because he's familiar with something like that.
Right.
And what happens is you become desensitized to the behavior. You know it's wrong, but because you're desensitized to it, it's not a big deal. Right?
Yeah.
You know it's wrong to cuss somebody out, to call a woman out of her name.
Right.
But because you've heard it so much, you're desensitized. It doesn't have the same effect. So we're looser with that kind of behavior.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of what puts us in these situations. And also not being checked. You know, sometimes, you know, toxic behavior is allowed and it's not properly checked.
Right.
You know, I can wrong you and apologize. You can forgive me, but in my apology, was I really sorry? Right? Because we talk about the difference between saying I'm sorry, being sorry, and being repentant.
Right.
You know, a turning around, a changing of behavior. Right. You know, I heard a man tell me once, when I was late to a meeting, I went to a meeting with Pastor Cecil Murray, First AME Church in the 90s. And I was late getting to the meeting. And I said, "I'm sorry, I'm late, Pastor." And he said, and I quote, "Nigga, as long as you black and your behind points to the ground, don't you ever be sorry about nothing in your life." Wow. And I was crushed emotionally.
Right.
Like, why would you talk to me like that?
Right.
You know, I had never heard him speak in any form of vulgarity ever.
Right.
You know, he was a mentor. He was like all that to me, and it broke me. It was like, I'm like, wow. But when I walked away from it, I was like, man, I learned more about his personality later on, and I realized he saw the potential in me, and he wanted to gut that bad behavior, cut it off
instantly. Right.
Absolutely. He just wasn't playing. And this was a 20-year retired Air Force pilot.
Right.
Well, he didn't play. The first man who told me don't trust a black man without a mustache, without hair in his face. That's who told me that. Not that that's right, you know. And I'm not saying even his statement to me was right. I'm just saying that these are the influences that we have. And the influences that we have create these behavioral patterns, and sometimes left unchecked, you know. And my point is, what keeps toxic behavior alive?
Yes.
Allowance.
Yeah. Allowance. Allowance.
You allow it to happen, it continues to happen.
Yeah.
You know, but when properly checked, that can curb the behavior, or even, you know, it'll disrupt the behavior, but you have to get help. So I think that we're very lenient on each other. Sometimes we're so dependent on each other that we allow certain behaviors, we overlook certain things because we benefit in other ways.
Right.
And that's why a man can be toxic in his house, and because he's paying the bills, and you know.
I need him. Right. Why was it? I always think about that Tina Turner song. Why he treat me like he do when he's such a good man. Like,
or who was that? Was it Club Nouveau? Why you treat me so bad?
Oh, yeah, right. Why you treat
I don't know why, baby. Why you treat me so bad? Why you do me the way you do?
Right. I have no intentions of leaving. That's just why you keep treating me like this, you know?
Yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, it's you're right. It's a constant, you know, not encouragement, but like, yeah, if you don't check them, you know, they feel like though they, you know, those that, you know, act in this certain behavior may feel it, but they feel like they're getting results and no one's checking or leaving, you know. So it's just what they say, par for the course. It's just part of what we have to deal with, part of life, you know.
Yeah.
And until the behavior is checked, you know, how do you check that behavior? You know, when do you check it? And I think it's just up to all of us not to allow it to happen in front of us. And I understand when like talking to my wife, we was talking, we had a brief conversation thinking like R. Kelly and how, you know, people around him knew what was going on, you know, whether to whatever level there was something going on, and people don't want to check it because, you know, he's a genius. I don't want to lose my spot. You know, like I don't want to be fired. You know, what it matter? He just gonna fire me. But, you know, why would you allow the behavior to happen around you without saying something? Why would you let that sit on your conscience, knowing that something ain't right, something's going awry? So it's like I said, checking that behavior and breaking these habits. But let me ask you this. This is kind of a tough one. So what if it's happening in a household, you know, not yours, but in another household? You know?
Why not mine?
Well, because in your household, you know, it's somewhat easier to check. It's in your household. You know, if someone checking you, you know, maybe more challenging, but you checking your house because you're leading. But if it's in someone else's household, you can see something going on. How would you approach that? You know?
Well, so first and foremost, you're right. I think a lot of it goes to culture, but it takes as much courage for correction in my house as it does in anyone else's house.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's
to realize it's like something is off. Like this is I gotta do something.
Absolutely. And listen. I you can't check me any day of the week.
Right.
Today may not be the day.
Right.
As with my wife, it may not be the day. As with my children, it may not be the day. You know, there's a time and a place for everything, and packaging matters. Right.
Yes.
And it's not always packaged right. You know, I don't think we perfected the packaging process. You know, sometimes we just want it to be known. Sometimes we just put it out there. Look, I don't like what you did. I don't like this behavior. I don't like what I'm feeling.
Right.
You know, and unless you can relate, unless you can really understand and connect with what that emotion is, you may be desensitized to it. You may not feel it. You know, when you think about people like, R. Kelly,
Yeah.
he wasn't on the receiving end of his behavior.
Right. Right. That's true. That's true.
Right.
That's true.
He never really was able to connect with the impact of his behavior,
Right. Yeah.
nor were his enablers.
Right.
Or
Mm.
if you were, you weighed your connection to him and your benefits from him,
Right.
and they outweighed
Right.
the consequences, the impact that
Yeah.
you clearly saw in the victims.
Right.
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 So
That's
in our home, I have this philosophy that a lot of people can hear themselves talking, but they don't know how they sound.
right.
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 So please allow me to play back to you what you've just given to me, and you let
Yeah.
me know how it feels.
Right.
Right.
Right. Right.
We tell our children, we ask our children questions. Do you want somebody to do that to
Do that to
you?
you. Right.
And
Right.
it's rhetorical.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're trying to
Yeah.
make them think, but they're not thinking about that.
Yeah.
They're only
Can't
thinking about what they
respond.
wanted to get accomplished.
Right.
You were in my way, so I needed to do something to get you out of my way so that I could do
Push
what
you
I
into the
needed to
wall.
do by any means
That's
necessary.
kick you down. Whatever it took. Whatever it took.
Right.
Right.
Right. And so how do you get someone to understand the negative impact of their behavior without them ever actually feeling it?
Mm.
Right. If you're an abusive spouse,
Right.
and you lay hands on your spouse,
Right.
and your spouse does not have the ability to lay hands on you, how are you ever going to understand the pain and anguish?
Right.
I remember,
I hope so.
mom is asking.
I think I am. Yeah. I got Facebook people saying yes. Yes, I am. Yeah. I just shared it. Yeah. So yeah.
Lady and I had disruption in our marriage years ago.
Okay.
And I was responsible for causing pain.
Mm.
Right. And I had an opportunity to slow down and see the pain. Right. When I saw it, I had a revelation, and it was, I never want to be responsible for causing that kind of pain on her. Right. Mm-hmm. I don't want to have to care. I don't want to be responsible for what I see in her face. Right.
Right.
So it caused me to change my behavior.
Right.
You understand? And if we don't slow down and take inventory, take note of our behavior and the impact that it has. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago, you're going to have to deal with the future present.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to generational habits, there is a present day in 10 years. There's a present day in 20 years. There's a present day in 30 years.
Right.
If you, and it'll start with 5 years, 2 years, one, whatever it is, and so if you want your future today, your future present day, your future current state to be blessed, the seed that you plant right now today is going to be the foundation of the harvest that you reap in your future.
Right.
So if I want my children to be great when they grow up, I have to make sure that the seed I put into their life, the behavioral patterns that they witness as they're growing up, are healthy and conducive.
Right.
If I want my marriage to work in 10 years, let me make sure that this year I don't have anything that can blow up in 10 years.
Right. But it's seeing past your right now. Some people are correcting something based on now. Is it making a temporary decision, a permanent decision on a temporary circumstance?
Right.
Reacting instead of being proactive in how they react. Like we talked about disciplining your kids. When you're going in there angry, yeah, you're gonna get the result that you're looking for. But what are the scars that you're leaving because you're so angry? Instead of taking a step back, how could I help correct this situation that in the future, they can make a better decision? So it's those moments, I think, that in the past, how our generation and generation before have reacted to situations, getting popped and spanked
It's the
for
difference
silly stuff.
between a sledgehammer
Right,
and a
right.
rubber mallet,
Yeah, yeah, indeed,
right?
indeed. Yeah,
Both can apply the same amount of pressure,
right,
but a sledgehammer will crush the surface, where a
right,
rubber mallet can apply the same kind of pressure
right.
but preserve the surface.
Yes,
You
yes.
understand? And a
Hmm.
lot of times we want to cause something to shift, and we come in with a sledgehammer
Hey, good morning, I'm Sam.
and we crush the surface,
Right,
right? And we leave the internal stuff exposed, and it's dangerous because that's when infection and issues can set in. What about this habit? My grandmother, mother, myself, and
so
my daughter believe in the power of the whooping. Is this a habit that needs to change? Um, See, that's
let's dig into this. Let's go. So, I mean, I'll
Woo.
I'll kind of start. So, I'll say, I mean, I don't, I believe it's necessary to an extent. I'll say that going away totally in my mind, like, and I've researched, like, I've been watching and checking, and for alternatives, like, what's an alternative to doing, and no one can really give a good one where it's I've seen effective enough. Now, if someone got some, throw a link in there, I'll
Really?
check it out. I haven't, yeah, and like I've seen interviews and folks, and I was like, but from excuse me, I don't think so. Oh no, you good? You said I don't think so. Okay, getting rid of power. Um, but like I think for us learning into going hot when we're angry, like taking out aggression, without a point, or a reference or why, I think being more clear in your disciplining, to me is what my focus is. Like, what's the purpose? What's the message that I'm trying to deliver? Putting a little more thought to it instead of
Yeah.
just going in there hot because I'm pissed and you did whatever for whatever reason, and I'm hot and I'm taking out my aggression on you. You know what I'm saying? Instead of in a disciplining mindset. That's for me because I've in our when we first had AJ and growing and my wife's like, all right, you need to take a minute, take a minute, take a minute. I'm like, I know I'm ready to take him down. Like, Tim said we rarely, physically discipline our kids, but sometimes we have to consult the power. It's rare, but sometimes yes, and that's because I can't. Yeah, they say it hurts me more than it hurts you. I hate it. I hate like having to get there, but I feel like we're at that point. It's like we've talked, we tried. I think and there may be steps we missed, and so because as a parent, you never feel like it's perfect. You just like, oh, it's what I know. It's all I know. Let's see. Miss Vaughn said absolutely right. Yes, that is a habit that needs to change. There's so many ways to discipline children that is very effective. All right, put some up there. I'll definitely listen and pass the word on. I believe it can. I think it just. I don't know. I don't like. I've done. And listen, we do timeout. We did. And we learned this from somebody to put your nose on the wall. Like and anything to kind of calm you, get your attention. Like you need to stand up there, put your nose on the wall. And not like for hours, like some torture, but just a kid having to stand there even 5 minutes. It's torture in their mind, but so we've done a lot of that. Like we've tried so many steps before we get to that point. So and now that they're older, you're trying different things, because you don't want to get to that point. Go ahead, Pastor. Yeah, I
I'm
just
just
jumped.
gonna. I want to read a couple of biblical verses.
All right.
Um, One of them is Proverbs 13 and 24.
All right. All right.
Proverbs chapter 13 and verse 24. And it says, he that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes. and then Proverbs 23
Mm-hmm.
and 13 and 14. Proverbs 23, 13 and 14 says, withhold not correction from the child, for if thou beats him with the rod, he shall not die. Thou shalt beat him with the rod and shall deliver his soul from hell. That's Bible.
Can't argue
All
with the
right.
Bible. The Bible said it.
That's Bible.
Right.
Now, I will say this. I have
Right.
physically disciplined my children
Right.
historically.
Right.
I have done that. I'm a father of 5. It was never the primary source of discipline for me. And I think I don't know. My mother have to say this, but I think I got the fewest whoopings in the house growing up
Gotcha.
in our house.
Gotcha.
Right? Not that I was so innocent. I think I just didn't get caught as frequently. But I got the fewest. But because of getting them and witnessing them,
Right.
I did not like them. However, as a single parent, I got to points where I felt like it had to be done.
Right.
And even my wife and I, with our my younger children, there were a couple of occasions where I felt like it just had to be done. I had to send a message.
Right.
I could probably count. I got 5 children, and I probably gave less than 10 whippings through all of my 5 children. Right. Now that doesn't include a spanking.
Mm.
Patting them, smacking them on the butt with your hand or something.
Is it one of my tension moments? Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
I'm talking about
do
like getting a belt,
yeah,
and lashing them.
I get you. I got you. Yeah.
So I don't disagree with it.
Right.
I don't think it's the primary. I think that everything is in stages, but I also think, to your earlier point, that education is key. Right? We have to educate our children about right and wrong, but not just what's right and what's wrong, but the consequences of right and wrong.
Right.
And I think that if we do that, if with more effective communication, I'm not saying that I don't think it's possible to never. I think there are people who have never done it, but that doesn't mean the child didn't need it at one point or the other. Right.
Right.
So I support physical discipline. I just don't support it as the primary means of discipline.
Right. I'm gonna read on Sam's. She made a statement: being physical with children will cause them to be physical with their children, and even physical as they grow up with those that they love. Being physical is not the answer. Communication, teaching them who they are, and being able to be responsible and loving one another is one of the greatest changes that can be made. Love can change everything. When you show children love, compassion, understanding, and listen to them, please believe we do all. I do all. We do all. Sam does all. We do all.
I agree with that, but I just think that children can receive all of that,
right,
and still not get home before the street lights come on.
Right.
I think children could do all of that and still end up taking something that doesn't belong to them.
Right.
Children can get all of that and still break their brother or sister, their siblings' toys.
Right.
Because they're children.
They're children.
They're
children.
Go ahead.
Sam says, right, Pastor, it should be a primary or sole.
She meant shouldn't.
Should not be. Right. Should not be the primary or sole source of discipline for your children. But at times it's been necessary, but always follow with the conversation and teaching. Yes, that's right. I don't go and hide. I do what we do, and then we have a conversation. We sit down
Yeah.
and we try to let's adjust and refocus. Well, it says my cousin, man, you could whip him from sun up to sundown, and he'd get right up and do worse. Now, he said, when you took away the Nintendo, a different response. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because and that's what happens when, you know, I think that abuse,
Right.
Again, you can desensitize a child because at some point they're going to realize the pain from this whipping is going to go away.
Right.
You know, I know that if she whipped me or if he whipped me, it's going to last. The pain is going to last about, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but I think there's a difference between, and the other part of it is, the reason why education is so important is you have to talk to your children, explain to them why they should not do certain things.
Right.
And then when they do it anyway, and here's the thing, toddlers don't understand why. They only know yes and no.
Right.
Good or bad.
Yeah.
Right. And if they keep doing it, sometimes you let them do it and they see the pain, they see what happens and they won't do it anymore. But sometimes you got to pop that hand, get it off of there. Right. That's just real because you can't explain it away to a young child like that. As they get older, you can talk, communicate more. But I don't think anything should be completely ruled out. I've seen children that never got a whooping that ended up serial killers.
Right.
I think there's a difference between how you approach your child. That's the question. Are you disciplining your child out of their misbehavior, or are you disciplining your child because you see something in them that triggers something in you?
Right.
Because there is such a thing as an angry whooping, an angry beatdown.
Yes, indeed.
Right.
100%.
Yeah. And so your mindset is a great determining factor on whether or not you are properly disciplining your child.
Right.
And I think some of us get that confused because when you're tired, fed up, because of all the rest of that stuff, and then your child do wrong and you beat the hell out of your child.
Right. Because you beat them for your day and John did and Bob did.
Right.
And, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the stuff. Those are the gray areas that we have to check, that we have to look at. We have to examine, where was I at the time when I disciplined my child for what they did? Right. Because if I was in a different place, would I have approached it the same way?
Right. Comparison. Let's see. Aunt Sam says, I regret every moment I beat my child because he didn't do the right thing in school. Instead of listening to him, understanding where he was coming from, what he was thinking, how he was feeling, I just took the teacher's word, how bad he was in school, doing the same thing over and over. That was the reason. I didn't stop to find out what reason was. I regret today, listening to your children, feeling their thoughts, communicating with them, showing them love, compassion is great. Oh yeah. I'm saying, I'm with you with the school because we've had, and so we do make sure we have the conversation. Like, okay, like what's going on, what's the struggle, what's happening, and we have the conversation, and then the conversation, then the other conversation after the conversation, then another conversation. Like it's a minute. Me and Sam, we don't go in hot. We have conversation. You talk to the teacher, then you compare stories. You like. Something ain't matching up, and we impose judgment based on the conversation. So I'm with you on that. Like I said early on, learn to not go in hot. You hear it, it makes you mad because it's always that you embarrassing me. You're making me look bad. So after you kind of swallow that feeling. You try to have the conversation as to why are we having issues? What's the struggle? Are you? And we get into, are you losing interest? Like my wife has told the story of my daughter when she was like 2 or 3, throwing a tantrum in one of the classes because the teacher was so daggone stoic and not loving that my daughter lost it. We realized it could be that teacher. And we've had our son. He struggled in school, but we had a teacher that just was like. She had no patience. She wasn't really equipped to teach our son. Like our son has his issues, but it's like, you still gotta have some patience. Let us know what's going on. Let's work this thing out. She just kind of gave up. So we pulled him out because we didn't want our confrontation with that teacher to start spilling over more into him. So listen, Aunt Sam, I dig what you're saying. But yeah, kind of checked ourselves where we walk the steps. Like by the time we get to the belt, oh yeah, it's judgment.
But I
We got
think the message
evidence.
there is, I didn't mean to cut you off. I
No, you
apologize. I
good.
think the
You good.
message there though is that's not indicating that it's wrong to physically
Right.
discipline your child. That's
Right.
indicating that you did not have the full picture
Right.
at that
Right.
time.
Exactly.
Right. And we can understand that because so many of us, not all of us, but so many of us have been there.
Right.
Right. So we can misunderstand. We can
Right.
make the mistake of not hearing our children out. You know,
Right.
"Hey, there's no reason that teacher would lie on you. Yes, there is. Teachers lie. You know,
Right. They do. They do.
yeah,
They do. Cover their
yeah.
own butts.
I've
Right.
learned to I had to overcome saying that to my child.
Right.
There's no reason you're not important enough for that teacher to lie on you.
Right. Right.
But
she's
that
trying to keep
teacher's
her job.
pride and reputation is important enough for
Right.
them to
Yes.
lie on you. You know,
Right. Right. Oh,
train up a child in the way they should go when they get old. Yeah, absolutely.
definitely.
But again, that's, there's a difference between discipline,
Said it
effective
showed up. Good
discipline,
one,
and
Cheryl.
abuse.
Right. Right.
Yes, Cheryl,
Yes.
they do. Absolutely.
Let's see. Okay. Han Sam says, in order to get a degree in whatever position that we want to have in our future, we go to school, to college, and it takes every bit of our time almost to studying to get a degree. It didn't come overnight. Children learn and don't learn overnight. It takes time, training, and teaching, and they will get where they should be. Got or go. The word also says train. Yeah, definitely. You got this. It's a balance. It's training. It's teaching. It's discipline. Training, teaching, discipline. And keeping them on track, and you put it in them. And like you said in the last statement, I'm saying my child, teach a child in the way they should go, and when they get old, they won't depart. So when they're out of your sight, they hear your voice. When they're about to do something, they know exactly how you instructed them. Like, my dad did say, "Don't do this." My dad kind of
Listen. The scripture says we are born in sin,
yes,
and shaped in iniquity.
Yes,
we are designed to go wrong. That's why we have to be born again.
Yes,
yes,
indeed.
We're designed to go wrong, and we have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And
we said Richard said apple never falls far from the tree. Right. My son does a lot of shenanigans I have done, which is why sometimes I can see it in his face, like, oh yeah, you shenaniganizing. What you doing? Let me investigate a little bit, because you got the face I had all them years ago. So yeah, it's like I know you because I know me.
Mm-hmm.
But so today, we're having a conversation. Whereas before, the conversation of spanking the beat, we would have been up here like, this is what we do. If you don't beat them, you need to beat them. But now there's more conversation, before we get to that. Let's see. Let me get this one. Let's see. We also have to, on Sam says, we also have to know the mental state of our children. We don't know where certain behaviors come from until we research the family history. Some children do things because of their genetic makeup. And we have to, as parents, learn that this isn't it. I don't know. It's, for example, if my father's alcoholic, there's a tendency that I may go to have desiring it. No, because my father's struggled with substance abuse. But I think, well, I guess for myself, when I was young, I made that declarative statement that I'll never drink. I told.
Hey, my mom. Let me put Shirley on blast.
I'm gonna get out of here.
My mom believed in herbs.
Okay.
And spices.
Herbs and spices. Okay.
So she had herb. I don't know why my camera went fuzzy.
No, you went. Your background is good. There you go. All right, it's focused.
And I got to my mom would come in from work, and she had this little herb tray, little wooden tray in the shape of a leaf.
Okay.
And that's where she kept her herb. Okay. And I would, she'd send me down the street to the pharmacy Get this. Our local pharmacy sold rolling papers,
Mm,
easy widers,
right,
tops, right? Uh, and so she would send me down to the pharmacy to get her easy widers.
right.
And I come home and she would have me cut up her herb on the tray and get it
Mm.
ready to roll. I went from cutting up the herb and separating the seeds. Oh yeah, zigzag. Yeah. All we
What's
had
up,
was easy
Chris?
wider. All we had was easy wider and tops back in the day. Zigzag came later. So I would cut it up and separate the seeds, right? Uh, and I went from that to learning how to roll it up for her, right? So I was her roller when she got home from work, get the tray from under the bed, twist it up, get it ready for her because she was about to take the pressure of the day off. I went from rolling it, from cutting it up, separating the seeds, to rolling it up, to lighting it for her.
Right.
And from lighting it for her, I went to hitting it, taking the first hit. Who was that that said like father, like son? It was like mother, like son, right?
Right.
And so I started smoking, and because my mom did, I did, right?
Right.
I don't smoke today, but I did go through the season of life of doing that. Does that make it hereditary? No.
Mm,
That makes it the practice of something because it's familiar,
right.
right?
Right.
A chemical dependency has to begin with partaking.
Right.
Bad
Right.
behavioral patterns has to begin with partaking.
Right.
You partake because it becomes familiar.
Right.
It's not because you didn't have a choice.
Right.
You always have a choice,
Right.
right? That's just the reality. So, because my father was an alcoholic means I'm gonna be an alcoholic. That's a lie from the pit.
Right.
It's you may be more apt to get it because of the behavior,
Behavior.
because of seeing it,
Right.
being around it, but
Right.
your body is not saying go get that.
Right.
Your mind does that. You
Right.
have to overcome it in your mind
Right.
and then overcome it in your behavior.
Right.
And that's what breaks generational habits. That's real. And the earlier you recognize that and understand that,
Right.
you won't look like the former generation.
Right.
That's the reason why a Barack Obama can become president
Right.
in spite of who his father was.
Right. Right. Yes, indeed. Said learn behavior. Yeah, definitely learn behavior. Sometimes we do what we see. Yes, indeed. Let's see. Let me read this one. All right. She said, if you have a strong mind to say and believe that my mother was a drug, I guess, addict, so therefore I see the results of being a drug addict, and I'm determined not to go that direction. Yeah. So my power is very, very beautiful when you can say, I'm not going to allow this to be my life. Right. That sometimes you can also teach your children. Yeah, you can decide. You have to make that decision. He says seeing behavior will trigger similar responses in the offspring. Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
not chemical.
Right.
That's psychological.
Right. Like we started talking about in the beginning, if I'm constantly beating up on my wife, and this is what my son sees, he's going to respond possibly the same way in his household because he sees that that's what's effective, and especially if she's staying, like she may get hurt, she may hold her eye, but she won't never go anywhere. So obviously,
That's why we have to be careful who we yoke ourselves up with.
right.
Yes.
Yes.
Sometimes we have the same problems because we connect with the same people.
Whew. Message.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a culture,
Right.
there's a
Yeah.
culture. Why? How did I end up with the same
person.
man that my mother married?
Whew.
Because he was your father.
Right. Or at
Right.
least a father figure. Yeah. Someone that you've seen. Or
Yeah. You watch the behavior and it became familiar, comfortable, and you don't know anything else. So that's what you draw in,
Right.
and you have to think about that kind of stuff, right? which is why as parents, we have to be careful with how we conduct ourselves in front of our children.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I thank God for the man I am today, but I hope and pray that none of my children grow up and marry the man that I was 20 years ago,
Right. Right. Indeed.
25
Indeed.
years ago,
Right.
30 years ago, 30 years ago.
30 years ago.
I keep forgetting how old I am.
But yeah, that's true. That is true. Myself says, I was thinking about that when a man sees his mother being beat by her mate. Either he makes a decision that I will never hit a woman, or he will allow the same behavior in his own life. True. I
Yeah,
mean,
but see, but if you see, if your woman, like here's the thing, your mother never deserved
right.
to be hit to be physically hit, you know.
Exactly.
But if you have a woman and she exhibits the same behavior as your mother did,
Ooh.
you're going to think you need to do what your father did in response to that.
Right.
Because that's what you know.
Right.
Right?
Right.
We don't think about it from that perspective.
Right. Right.
You know, you grew up and married the same kind of woman that your father, who your mother is, and if she starts acting the way your mother used to see your mother act with your father, and you only know how your father responded to it.
That's how you do it.
What trigger do you have in you to make you do something different?
Right. Right.
That's the stuff. That's how we get ourselves in trouble, in danger.
Yeah.
Because and if your woman doesn't respond the way your mother did, you think you got to do even more.
Right.
Ooh. And then we got a funeral.
Right.
It might be yours.
Because she about to, easy win. She coming back.
Yeah.
Right.
Now there are great philosophical phrases and compound words and statements that we could pretty this conversation up. Right. But I believe in keeping it simple. You know.
He said, "Ouch, ouch! It's hard because you cannot help who you fall in love
with. Fall
I guess
you cannot help who you fall in love with. Yeah, you can help.
Yeah, you
can help who you fall. Well, you may not be able to help who you fall in love with, but you can help who you marry.
That too. That too. Yeah, because you can always care about somebody. He's like, man, I care about that fool, but you can't be with him. You can help it. You can help it. Oh, so yeah. All right. This is good. I appreciate you guys rocking and hanging with us. Okay, let me get on to it because she's been busting some stuff out. Me want respect and women won't love. So therefore, if we work on these things together and recognize what each other need, recognize what God's word says, how we should be, a life would surely be different from our past. I guess past.
Well, just men won't love too, Auntie.
Oh, it said men. Okay, men won't respect.
Yeah, men won't love also.
Yeah. Yes,
and women won't respect also.
Right.
Aretha Franklin told us that.
Right. Right. When those basic, we both want the same thing. Appreciate it, Mama Gloria. I appreciate you being here. All right, guys. I appreciate you guys rocking and hanging with us. Tomorrow is the Freestyle Friday, so anything can happen. So make sure you stay tuned, stay connected. Make sure you order your BOL apparel at www.brotherslegacy.com. Also, make sure you are staying connected to all the broadcasts at text LWN to 84576. Text LWN to 84576. I don't know about that, but automatic. Okay, so text here. Join our community. Text LWN to 84576. What else? Make sure you share and tag. Let people know that we are having these wonderful conversations. Let them be a part of this, because through these conversations, our community changes and we become better. All right. So I look forward to seeing you guys. Same time, same channel, tomorrow in the AM. And again, thank you for hanging out with the Brothers of Legacy, where we don't stand out, we stand up. Pastor, did you want to say something before we get out of here?
No. I love that Sam's last message, because you're right. Respect and love run hand in hand. I think I told you that story. I learned that in at West Point back in 1987. A guy said the most important factor in a relationship, and I was like, love. He was like, yeah, but what do you need before you can have love? I'm like, commitment. I'm like, what do you need before you can have that? And I'm like, and he was like, no, respect. Because if you don't know how to respect, you'll never be able to set up what to expect. Right. And respect for the other person goes a long way. And love is a way to show respect, and vice versa. Respect is a great way to show love.
Right.
You know,
it's good. All right. We look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow, same time, same channel. Always know that we love you, but God loves you more. Stay safe. Continue to wear those masks and keep your 6 feet. Let's at least mitigate, crush, get this coronavirus down. It's not going away, I don't think, but at least get it under control so we can live life. All right. Peace out. As always, we love you. Know that God loves you more. Stay safe. Thank you guys for hanging, make sure sharing is caring. All of my replay peoples that watch in the background that I know see this show, I appreciate